say the truth will set you free, but in today's world, it's the lie that keeps you hooked. Once upon a time, we believed that information was power. A well-informed person was a powerful person. But fast forward to today, and we're drowning in information. It's no longer rare, it's everywhere. And more often than not, it's manufactured. In this upside-down reality, disinformation, the deliberate spread of falsehoods, has become the new currency of influence. It's not the truth that travels fastest, it's the lie. In fact, studies have shown that false news spreads 6 times faster than real news on social media. Why? Because lies are often designed to be sensational, emotional, and sticky. They're engineered for engagement. And then comes the twist: artificial intelligence. With the rise of deepfakes and AI-generated content, even our eyes can be deceived. A politician giving a speech that never happened. A voice that sounds like your mother, saying words she never uttered. In this era, seeing is no longer believing.
We've entered a time where reality can be edited, perception can be programmed, and belief can be manipulated. The truth may liberate you, but lies are addictive. They're tailored to your fears, your desires, your biases. Like sugar in your diet or a slot machine in a casino, they're built to keep you coming back for more. So the real question isn't what is true anymore. The real question is, how do we know what to trust?
Lying, it's not an exception, it's the norm. And no, I'm not being cynical. I'm just observing the human condition. You see, I'm not here to doubt everything. I'm here to explore the mechanics of how we think, how we speak, and more importantly, how we deceive. Because here's the truth we don't like to admit. Everyone lies. From the innocent white lies we tell to avoid conflict, to the elaborate narratives we craft to preserve our identity, lying is baked into our biology. It's not just a moral failing, it's a survival strategy. In evolutionary terms, deception helped our ancestors secure food, gain mates, and navigate complex social hierarchies. A baby's cry is technically manipulative. It elicits a response. A chameleon blends into its environment, deception in nature. And humans, we tell stories, some true, some not so much. But here's the catch. Some lies are so beautifully constructed, they become truth's evil twin, undistinguishable to the untrained eye. Facts get twisted, truth gets sensationalized, reality becomes a performance, and we, the audience, applaud the illusion. We consume information like junk food, and just like junk food, it fills us up but starves our mind. With every headline we scroll past, our ability to think critically, to question, to pause, shrinks. It's no longer about truth or logic. It's about narrative. We don't fall in love with facts. We fall in love with stories. And here's a biological clue. Our emotional brain, the limbic system, is ancient, powerful, and lightning fast. It processes feelings like fear, love, and anger in milliseconds. Our rational brain, the prefrontal cortex, it's a late bloomer in evolution. Slower, methodical, careful. So when a compelling story tugs at our heart, the emotional brain takes the wheel, long before reason has a chance to speak. That's why we believe lies that make us feel good and ignore truth that make us uncomfortable.
Voltaire warned us, those who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities. And we've seen it, haven't we? Genocides, witch hunts, cults. History isn't just written by the victors. Sometimes it's written by the liars. Today, society isn't just divided by borders or bloodlines. It's being torn apart by belief systems, by political gospels, racial myths, and religious certainties. Left versus right, us versus them. Echo chambers have replaced town halls. Algorithms are the new gatekeepers of truth. And in the middle, a widening canyon of confusion. We're drowning in noise. Information overload is real. And let's be honest, most of us wouldn't recognize insight if it knocked on our screen. We've reached a point where finding the truth is like hunting for a needle in a haystack, while the haystack is on fire. In this chaos, who do we trust? What do we believe? And more importantly, are we even asking the right questions anymore?
We are wired for stories. It's how our species has made sense of the world since we first sat around fires and drew on cave walls. From ancient myths to viral memes, stories shape how we think, how we feel, and what we believe. We don't just like stories, we crave them. That's why we gossip. That's why rumors spread like wildfire. That's why conspiracy theories grab hold and don't let go. Because even if they're untrue, they're still good stories. They spark our curiosity, ignite our imagination, and scratch that deep human itch to know why. Hope sells. Dreams inspire. Reality? Well, that's often inconvenient. That's why we fall for political promises that sound too good to be true. Why we pick sides in debates we barely understand. Why we scroll through our feeds, soaking in narratives tailored to keep us watching, clicking, buying, and believing. Because it's not the facts that fascinate us, it's the gaps. Our minds are like eager film editors, cutting and stitching fragments of information to create a story that fits our expectations. If something's missing, no problem, we fill it in with emotion, bias, or wishful thinking. Here's the kicker. Our brains evolved to reward confidence, not accuracy. A simple, confident explanation, even if it's wrong, often feels more satisfying than a complex, accurate one. It's why charismatic leaders attract crowds. It's why simple slogans win elections. And it's why disinformation can feel more true than the truth.
Seth Godin said it best. All marketers are liars. But he wasn't calling them villains. He was pointing out that marketing works because it taps into our love for stories. Every ad is a little story whispered in your ear. You're not enough without this. This will make you happy. Others will admire you for owning this. And once we hear that story enough, we believe it. We act on impulse, and then later, we justify it with logic. That's not deception. That's neuroscience. We're all just storytellers, each trying to map meaning onto a chaotic world. Kurt Vonnegut captured this in his poem, Tiger Got to Hunt, Bird Got to Fly, Man Got to Sit and Wonder, why? Tiger got to sleep, bird got to land, man got to tell himself he understand. We want to understand, so we tell ourselves stories that make sense, even if they aren't true. We believe not in the truth, but in the version of truth we want to be true. And once we buy into a good story, it sticks. Even when new facts come in, even when the evidence changes. It's called belief perseverance, a well-studied phenomenon in psychology. The mind clings to its first impression. Changing it feels like tearing pages from your favorite book, painful, uncomfortable, unnatural. So here we are, billions of humans, swimming in a sea of stories, searching for truth, dodging deception, making meaning, making mistakes, because in the end, stories aren't just how we communicate, they're how we survive. And sometimes, the most dangerous story is the one we tell ourselves.
In an age of infinite information, one truth remains. We humans weren't designed for this. Our brains evolved to survive the savannah, not scroll through an endless news feed. We are bombarded with more information in a single day than our ancestors processed in a lifetime. And to make sense of it all, our brain takes shortcuts, mental shortcuts, cognitive quick fixes, the kind that feel right but aren't always right. You see, our brains are wired to save energy. We don't deeply analyze every claim. We react, we assume, we trust our instincts. That's why even the smartest among us can fall for fake news. Neurologically, we process truth and falsehood the same way at first glance. Facts blur with fiction. Emotion overrides analysis. And even experts get it wrong. There are many reasons for believing in fake news. 1. Confirmation, bias and motivated reasoning. We tend to believe what we want to believe. It's called a confirmation bias. When we hear something that supports our existing views, we latch onto it. And when something challenges our beliefs, we reject it, sometimes aggressively. But why? Because holding two conflicting thoughts causes mental discomfort. Psychologists call it cognitive dissonance. And to reduce that discomfort, the brain picks a side, the side it already likes. This process is called motivated reasoning. We bend the facts to fit our feelings. Think of it like this. If you built your mental house out of lies, you need more lies to keep the walls from collapsing. That's why people binge news that agrees with them, left or right, truth or fiction. Not for information, but for reassurance.
Then there's the illusory truth effect. The more we hear a lie, the more true it starts to feel. Familiarity creates credibility, even if we know it's false. Nazi propagandist Joseph Goebbels once said, "A lie told once remains a lie, but a lie told 1,000 times becomes the truth." In one study, participants were told certain statements were false, yet after repeated exposure, many started believing them. Why? Because repetition breeds trust. We trust what's familiar more than what's factual.
The third trap is visual deception. They say seeing is believing, but in today's world, seeing is deceiving. Research shows people believe misinformation more when it comes in video form than text. Fake videos, especially those generated by AI, are more persuasive and more shareable. Synthetic media, deepfakes, edited footage, even satirical content blurs the line between fiction and fact. One satirical article was cited in over 400 serious academic papers mistaken for genuine research. On social media, novelty wins. Shocking stories, dramatic headlines, bizarre claims, they travel faster than truth. Because truth is cautious. Lies are viral.
If you want something to go viral, just make it emotional. Lies that spark outrage, fear, or hate are like wildfire. They spread without friction. Platforms like Facebook, YouTube, and X reward engagement, not accuracy. Their algorithms are emotional amplifiers. The more triggered you are, the more content you'll see that reinforces that emotion. In this echo chamber, facts are optional. All that matters is how something makes you feel. One study from MIT found that false news travels 6 times faster than the truth, simply because it's more surprising. And when people are emotionally charged, accuracy takes a back seat to virality. Nietzsche once said, "Madness is rare in individuals, but in groups, it is the rule." And Charles Mackay warned, "Men go mad in herds, while they only recover their senses one by one." While we praise the wisdom of the crowd, history shows us there's also stupidity in the crowd. From cults to political mobs, televangelists to online conspiracies, when people come together around a false narrative, it becomes dangerously real. In today's hyper-connected world, this madness spreads faster than ever. Flat Earth theories are back. Medical myths go viral. Fiction parades as fact. And millions follow.
We used to believe that education was the cure to ignorance, that degrees, diplomas, and scholarly titles would elevate society toward truth, reason, and progress. But here we are. In a world overflowing with credentials and yet starving for clarity. A world where the most educated minds can sometimes be the most blindly misled. This is the paradox of our time, the rise of the educated ignorant. People armed with academic accolades, professional titles, and letters after their names, yet detached from introspection, blind to nuance, and stubbornly loyal to narratives that feel right, regardless of whether they are right. Because knowledge, without humility, stops being transformational. It becomes performative, a badge to be flaunted, a mask that hides how little we're actually willing to question ourselves. You'd expect the highly educated to lead with reason and objectivity, but studies suggest something unsettling. When misinformation is involved, educated individuals are often the first to pick sides. Why? Because the smarter the person, the better they are at rationalizing their bias. They're not immune to misinformation, they're more skilled at defending it. And once belief hardens, logic bends. Their loyalty shifts, not to evidence or ethics, but to identity, tribe, and comfort.
Take climate change. The science is settled, but the narrative? Fragmented, distracted, politicized. Instead of exposing the real culprits, major polluters, lax policies, and systemic failures, the conversation often spirals into sideshows, debates over paper straws, celebrity carbon footprints, and whether climate change is a hoax. This isn't debate, it's distraction. It's climate confusion. And it's often perpetuated by people who should know better. Because educated ignorance doesn't seek truth. It seeks comfort. It clings to convenience, avoids confrontation, and resists anything that threatens its worldview. We see it in politics. The educated elite fawning over personalities, not policies. Falling for PR-crafted heroes instead of examining actions and consequences. It's no longer about what's real. It's about what's marketable. We don't analyze, we idolize. This isn't a failure of education. It's a failure of intellectual discipline. True education isn't about how much you know. It's about how deeply you're willing to question what you know. In a world where information is cheap but wisdom is rare, we must ask, are we teaching people to think or just to comply? Because when intellect serves ego instead of inquiry, we don't get wisdom. We get educated ignorance.
So, what's the solution to all this noise? The misinformation, the fake news, the educated ignorance? It isn't more data. It isn't louder voices. It's critical thinking. The most powerful tool we have isn't a search engine. It's the human mind, trained to think, not just to react. Critical thinking means asking the hard questions, checking facts, verifying sources, challenging your own beliefs, and having the courage to sit with discomfort, what psychologists call cognitive dissonance, without rushing to resolve it by picking a convenient side. F. Scott Fitzgerald once said, "The test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold two opposing ideas in mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function." And psychologist Philip Tetlock found that those who consider multiple, even contradictory viewpoints make far better decisions than those who cling to a single, rigid worldview. In a polarized world, the ability to pause and consider both sides isn't weakness, it's wisdom.
So here's a simple mantra: question everything. Don't take headlines at face value. Don't assume the loudest voice in the room is the most informed. Ask, who benefits from this story? What's the source? What's missing? What's the other side? Because belief without scrutiny is just obedience, dressed in conviction. Now here's something powerful: pre-bunking. It works a bit like a mental vaccine. Just as your immune system learns to recognize a virus before you're exposed to it, your brain can be trained to recognize misinformation before it strikes. It's called inoculation theory. By exposing people to weakened versions of misleading arguments and then explaining why they're flawed, you help them build mental antibodies against falsehoods. It's not just about correcting lies after they spread. It's about preparing minds before they take root. Also, don't fall for the persona. Politicians, influencers, public figures. What you see is often a projection, crafted by PR firms, amplified by algorithms, and designed to elicit trust. Before you admire, ask, who are they really? What's their track record? Who funds them? What aren't they saying? Never become a fan before doing your homework.
Stay vigilant. Seeing is no longer believing. In an age of deepfakes, AI-generated lies, and vile half-truths, our eyes can be fooled, but our minds don't have to be. Ask, what if this is wrong? Why do I believe this? What if the other side has a point? It's not about becoming cynical, it's about becoming conscious. We may not be able to control the flood of misinformation, but we can choose how we swim in it. By thinking critically, by asking better questions, by staying open to being wrong so we can grow toward what's right. Because in the end, the most dangerous thing isn't the lie. It's the unwillingness to look for the truth.